What's our production rate? Ooh, oh yeah. Marvel at my belt spaghetti. Nice. All right, that's gonna give us crazy amounts more yield. Holy moly, we've got so many. Oh my goodness, we're making 200, 240, 270. Oh, attract a group of pentapods using spores. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh my god, he's destroying everything. I cannot actually do this. We have everything we need to start redesigning these ships. Today, I need to rebuild my starships because this ship is not going to cut it. We only have one of each chemical plant, and we've just unlocked our new processes for thruster fuel. So that's going to need calcite, and we're going to need more chemical plants to be able to supply the thrusters with enough fuel. So I need to redesign this whole ship. I'm probably going to just build a new ship, but I need to redesign this whole ship. I spent a bit of time off camera preparing a bunch of turbo belts and turbo splitters. And I spent a bit of time shipping all that from Vulcanus all the way to Narvis. And you can see here, this is my belt setup. It's pretty hefty. And I've also got a setup here making tier 3 speed modules, which I've also shipped back here as well. And we also have some efficiency modules going on Narvis. Apart from that, research is kind of stagnated because our Gleba factory, while I was gone, has completely died. I'm not exactly sure what happened. We'll have to go and fix that up before going any further to something like, say, Aquilo. But in the meantime, because we need so many more processes, we're going to need more power, and these solar panels just aren't going to cut it. Especially considering that it might be a good idea to try and get a foundry to work on a ship, which, contrary to the fact that there's no air in space, foundries apparently work up here in space. So that's going to be an interesting thing to try out. We get a good crafting speed and a 50% productivity, which is probably going to help a lot when we need to be making plenty of magazines. The other thing too is the new recipes that we unlocked with the advanced asteroid processing gives us copper. And that scares me a little bit because that makes me think that we're supposed to be using the copper to make piercing rounds magazines, which also makes me think that there's something more scary up there in space. So we have that to look forward to. Now, for this ship and its power solution, I've prepared a little array of parts here. Namely, I want to try and get nuclear power going. If I can get nuclear reactors, we might be good for a very large amount of power, which means we can have a very large ship doing very large things. And as you all know, big is my favorite word. And to fuel all that, I have a train network going here, carrying fuel cells all the way from the nuclear facility, which again is still full of fuel cells, and we fill up these chests, which are absolutely full. We have so many fuel cells. If I can send a stack of these up on every round trip that these ships make, we might be good for a very, very, very beefy transport ship. I have the space platform starter pack, so first things first, let's chuck this in. New space platform. We need a name for this ship. Actually, it's our second ship, and I'm hoping that this will be the ship that'll allow us to boldly go where everyone else has gone before. It's going to be on Narvis. Let's create that. I also finally brought some supercapacitors back and made up those personal battery Mark IIIs. So I'm going to chuck those in, and now we should have plenty of power. 500 megajoules to be precise, whereas previously we only had 200 megajoules. So I've more than doubled the power. There we go. Our space station is up. Okay, let's get started. So first off, we need to expand the cargo bays. So there we are. That should hopefully give us some space to work with. And then let's grab the nuclear reactors. Now, is this symmetrical? Can I actually fit this symmetrically? Oh, it's not quite symmetrical, but it'll do, it'll do. We can then run heat pipes, and then we need to fuel these things. So we need a long hand inserter, one for each. There is a problem with doing these cargo pods, is that they get in the way of being able to extract items from the ship's inventory. because you can't just pull items out of the cargo bays. They have to be pulled out of the main hub. So annoyingly, we have to leave a gap here, but that's okay. I'm going to then extract, and we're going to filter this to extract fuel cells. And there's probably a more compact way of doing this. So the next thing to think of is steam turbines. So we need heat exchangers, and then we need turbines. That's going to form the back reactor. That's going to give us 50 megawatts of power. And then we need water. That's done through a process of turning ice into water. And we can improve that with productivity modules. However, productivity modules spikes the power. One thing we can do straight away is set up a request for fuel. Now, what's up with our automated requests? These are still fulfilling other requests. Okay, that's fine. It could be time that we expand this as well, but I'm just going to leave it for now. We need to process water, and we'll probably do it on this side because we're going to have some space left over. We can put in some productivity modules in there. The ice needs to obviously come from space, from the asteroid fragments. Is there a better way to do ice? Yes, there is. Oxide asteroid chunks into ice and calcite. We get 3 ice out of 1 chunk, which is much better than... Actually, no, it's not better. It's worse. Okay, that's interesting. But we get the calcite, and the calcite can then be used with iron ore and more water to make oxidizer. Ooh, more water. We get 20 water from 1 ice. So this will make us 60 ice plus or minus some productivity. But 60 is not enough to do 1 bit of thruster fuel, and we need to be producing 40 water to power the nuclear power plants, or the steam turbines rather. We only need 1 calcite, so we could just do 1 advanced oxide crushing recipe, and then the rest can go straight into the regular so we can pump out more ice. Oh yeah, there's no power. Ooh, we're going to need some solar panels just to jumpstart the power system, I think. Asteroid crushing is probably going to go on this side. So these will be our regular ice, and then we need to get 1 more for the oxide. Then a couple of things are going to come out of this. We're going to get oxide asteroid chunks. They need to cycle back into this loop. Meanwhile, everything else comes through. The other products we can possibly get is calcite and ice. So the calcite needs to then travel somewhere else. And I just realized I probably don't have enough space allocated for myself here, but let's try it anyway. Inserters to bring the ice in, and then this will go into pipes. Pipes need to then end up coming into the boilers. The ice needs to come through on the right, which is actually the left. Funny that. And then on this side is the calcite, and that's going to head further down into the thruster zone. Speaking of the thruster zone, we need to prepare an area to make thruster fuel. So that's going to be yet another set of these guys. One of these advanced thruster fuels can produce 1.5k over 10 seconds. So that ends up being 150 fuel per second. One of our thrusters consumes 120 per second at maximum output. And we want to go fast. So 120 is a little under 150. So if we're going to have, say, 5 thrusters, let's place them down. Actually, let's try something cool. Let's try and go for 6. I have no idea what the symmetry is going to be like on this. Actually, is there symmetry? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hang on. Isn't there a grid we can turn on? Yeah, there we go. F5 turns on the grid. So if I grab... Oh, wow, that is very off-center. Hang on a second. Hold on a sec. We can fix this. There we go. Okay, so let's try and get this symmetrical. So this will form our fuel production. Water needs to continue down to here. We're definitely going to need way more water than this, and probably way more ice than this as well. Let's get our thrusters down. I'm going to place them probably something like this. Let's do it for a 2-engine pod design. This will be kind of cool. Oh, look at all that build. Our weight is already going up, but that's okay. We're going to have the thrusters to compensate. We got to make sure that we don't cross the pipes over. We can't have any of this kind of action going on. So we got to make sure that these remain disconnected. when we connect these two up together, they actually transfer fluids between each other. So that makes things easy for getting fuels in and out between two thrusters. But then getting them across the third thruster is the challenging part. So if we are inputting thruster fuel into here, that's going to fuel these two thrusters. And likewise, if we mirror the same thing across over here, that's going to fill up these two thrusters. And then we need to get fuel from here over into this port here. We can connect these two up. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's the design. It's nice and symmetrical, which makes me happy. I think that looks right. Yep. Okay, that's symmetrical. So that should connect those up. Now we just need to cross the lines over. I don't know why I'm fussing over making it symmetrical so much, but I would really like if it was. Maybe if we don't use the tanks. Maybe the tanks are the wrong way of thinking. We can do an underground tunnel here. Yeah, this isn't going to be symmetrical. That's probably the best we can get, which honestly isn't so bad. So then the next thing we can do is run some tanks just for extra storage space. There we go. And I think we're just waiting on... Oh, hang on. These are running. Let's try and jump the power across. Oh, we just can't quite make it. Oh, okay. That is an issue. But then if we ran this back up in like a loop, these arms are collecting from the wrong side though. But how much power is this producing? That's producing 80 megawatts each, which is 160 megawatts. Maybe we don't worry about this side. Yeah, maybe we just leave that for now. We'll see how this goes. If we get enough from 2 reactors, then we can just forego the extra 2 because that's extra mass. All right, let's get that solar panel back online. Probably squeeze it in down here somewhere, maybe. Maybe not. Yeah, I'll just squeeze it in here. This is going to be our fuel cells. Oh, okay, yes, we do need a belt returning and extracting the bad uranium cells. And then that needs to ship back down to Novice. So on Novice, I need to request the bad cells. And then I'll have to do a whole setup where a train picks them up and sends them all the way back to the nuclear facility for reprocessing here. The next thing we need to do is make sure we're processing all the ice correctly. So let's get our inserters going. Oh, that's another thing I forgot was the foundries. I think we can just chuck one there. This is going to make iron, but we need molten iron. Molten iron can come from iron ore and calcite because we don't have access to lava up in space. So iron ore and calcite is going to go in here. Iron ore we know how to get. That's fairly easy. What we can do here is copy this whole design and flip it, and this will produce us iron instead. And then we can do the advanced process to get a little bit of extra copper from down here. Iron ore is actually no copper ore. Ooh, hang on, how are we going to deliver this? Calcite needs to split into a few different places. So the calcite can come down here. Actually, this is a good spot we can fit in our solar panels. Then the calcite can end up going into these machines. And then the calcite needs to be used on all of these belts, but we only want carbon on these 3 processes, and we only want iron on these 3 processes. So I'm going to have to find a way to split it. I think the easiest way is filtering this so that only calcite comes through on this side, and then we should just be able to run the iron straight into here. Yeah, like that. So the iron will come here and join up on the other side of the belt. Actually, I just realized we need to deposit the calcite somewhere. Oh boy, calcite can deposit onto this belt, I think. Wait, no, hang on, this isn't calcite. What am I doing? Good thing the undo exists. Calcite also needs to split all the way up here so that it can go into the foundry. And the same needs to happen to the iron. And we've also got copper here. Iron ends up coming down. And then we can split the iron yet again and run this up. Copper can then come through a tunnel, and then we just do some simple furnaces down here for the copper. And then the iron goes up there and we have space to fit another solar panel. Yeah, okay, so then iron comes all the way up here. Then we grab our arms and we plonk them here. That's going to start melting iron ore. Then we can deposit the iron ore straight into a tank. And then we need yet another one of these guys. We need yet another foundry, and we can cast it straight into iron plates. Something like that might work. Now we need a spot to do the carbon processing. We can possibly just do the carbon processing over here. This is going to be carbonic. This is going to be advanced. Actually, why are we doing advanced carbonic? We don't need sulfur, do we? What would we need sulfur for on a spaceship? Our weapons don't need sulfur. We don't need to make sulfuric acid. And we can't turn sulfuric acid into steam because the pressure is too low. So that's actually kind of useless. We don't need this. We can switch that back into the regular carbonic crushing. That's going to send more carbonic chunks over to here that we can loop back around. And then the rest is just going to be carbon, which is nice and efficient. Okay, so the last thing we need now is a belt that's going to carry all of our asteroid chunks around. Oh, and then of course there's also the ammo belt as well. We need copper processing down here. Ah, yes, we need steel as well. Yeah, I don't think we need a terrible amount of copper, to be honest. How much copper do we get out of this? 4 copper. So for every metallic chunk, we get 4 copper. I think that's fine. Then that's going to output copper onto this side. And then I need to somehow get that to ship upwards. Ah, yes. Okay, I'm having a brainwave. Chat, I'm having a brainwave. This might actually work. We can run an inserter going upwards and an inserter going downwards and looping back into this tunnel. And that way we don't need inserters out over here. We don't need to widen this whole system at all. Yeah. Yeah, I think this could work. Okay, and then we can do some crafting over here. Okay, there we go. So that's going to be our regular magazines, and then we will export them with long arm inserters. We need to turn those into red magazines. We can then put copper onto that belt. We are going to have to extend this to the side a little bit. These guys will put the magazines on the top side of the belt. Copper is going to enter on the bottom side of the belt. And then we've got our steel here, which can grab straight out of there and come across to here. And voila, we have red magazines. Should hopefully keep our ship safe from any bigger dangers we might encounter. I hope there's nothing too big. Let's place down the asteroid collectors. We need space for another belt to go around as well for our asteroid resources. I'm going to turn the grid back on so we got some symmetry. I'm going to place these here. We need this belt to come all the way around. There we go. This is going to be so cool when it's finished. It is still a little slabby, I will be honest. I wonder if we could place more storage. Oh, accumulators. I forgot we need to send accumulators up. We can probably squeeze them right into here. Okay, gun turrets. That's going to give us some coverage, which will be nice. We need to tell the laser turrets to only shoot the little rocks. So let's set those up now. And then these guys can shoot. And they just need to shoot everything else, don't they? So if we set everything else... Okay, there we go. And then ignore the unlisted targets, because we want the laser turrets to do that for us. That might work. Probably get away with curving this a little bit, make it look a little nicer. Is there any way I can fit a beacon in here? I think I can. If I fit a beacon in here and put efficiency modules in here, that should keep the power of these guys going down. Because each efficiency module 3 reduces the energy consumption by 50%. So that's 100% power efficiency going to be taken off the top of 180%. These will only be running at plus 80%, which is better than 180%. The same can't be said for every other machine though. I don't think there's a feasible way I can fit everything else. Although we could fit this here. Probably the same on this side as well. So I'm curious, how much fuel are we consuming? 0.5 per minute. So every 2 minutes we consume a uranium fuel cell. If we have a 10-minute round trip, that's 5 fuel cells. I mean, a stack is doing pretty well then in that case. The only problem is when the ship is idle up in space. Did we send up those modules? No, what happened to the modules? Wait, did I send them to the wrong ship? I sent them to the wrong ship. Dang it. That should give us full coverage. These guys need a lot of efficiency because they're going to take a lot of power. So So let's run a couple of beacons. That drops their power usage down to 1 megawatt each. So once we get this running, we should be all good to go. The problem is, why aren't these... Oh, no power. We literally have no power. Oh my goodness, how do we kickstart this? How do we get enough power to start this process up? That is a bit of a problem. Okay, that's all looking good to me. Famous last words. Ah, yes, one other thing I need to send up is a singular power pole. As I discovered on our first Starship, we can use the power pole to actually monitor the electric network info, because I couldn't find any other place to check the power consumption. I'm going to chuck the power pole here in this little corner. So we're producing 5 megawatts, and we're going to be consuming a lot more than that pretty soon. We've got this belt filling up with asteroid chunks now. The next thing I need to do with it is split it off so that each of their chunks can get to where they need to go. There we go. Look at that, we got iron and copper. We now have copper for the piercing rounds. How much damage do the piercing rounds do anyway? 8 plus 20, that's better than the 5 plus 13. Okay, that's good. Still not as good as nuclear. Ooh. Okay, that is a problem. We have iron. What do we need to do with our excess iron? We need somewhere to dump the excess. We can probably create space here. So that's going to fly out like that. And then we've still got a space to put in some more power. Nice. Next we need to get the ice operational. So let's grab our splitter and filter that for ice chunks. And they enter into here. Nice. Then we should be getting ice and calcite. Which we are. There we go. The first calcite's coming through. We've got water. Oh my goodness, we got water. We have steam. 52 megawatts. We did it. Which means this should just about be ready to start processing once we get some more calcite coming through. We're not, because this is completely full. Okay, we have way too much ice. Can we put chests? Oh, the gravity's too low. No, you can't put chests in here. Oh, that's so annoying. Okay, well in that case, the excess ice, we can split this and then double layer that belt. That'll store more ice. We absolutely need to. We can create another one of these. All right, let's get the carbonic chunks going. Okay, nice, nice. Wait. That's so much. Okay, we need to do something about the excess. There we go. Problem solved. Feel like a genius. And that's going to be making our advanced thruster fuel. And we've completely filled up the thrusters. Ooh. Oh, wow. And these things are going as well. And the belt's starting to fill up with ammo. Ooh, we might actually be cooking, chat. We might have actually just cooked. But there is a slight problem. We need to extract the bad uranium. Yes. Okay, I think I know how I can do this. We use a splitter and filter out the bad uranium, and then we can run a tunnel that comes all the way back. Yeah, I think that'll do it. Cool. And then that puts the depleted uranium down here, which then gets shipped back down to Narvis. Okay, the only problem now, though, is our calcite production is still incredibly slow. So what we probably need to do is swap some of these recipes over a little further. Magazines are filling up, which is nice. Although our iron is a little slow. Why is our iron slow? Just not getting the right chunks. Okay. What I noticed is that Narvis tends to not have a whole lot of asteroid chunks floating around. So maybe this will be better once we send it off to another location. Should we do a test flight? Should we try out a maiden voyage? I'm feeling kind of good about this, actually. Yeah, alright. Let's do it. Either Gleba or Fulgora gets us closer to Aquilo, so I'm going to send it over to Gleba. Let's go. Oh no, only 2 thrusters are active. What's wrong? What did I miss? Oh, I missed some of the fuel. Right, okay. There we go, how we're doing. Okay, they're collecting good, they're collecting. How's our production rate going? Fuel is going down, so maybe we need to put productivity modules in these. That is going to spike the power usage a little bit. But the nuclear power plants are taking it like a champ. And there we are, we're at Gleba. No casualties at all. We did it, chat. We redesigned a ship and we have even more storage to spare.